The school hallways were completely empty in the early morning. The only sound echoing was the janitor's mop swiping across the floor. Franco had arrived at school early, as he always did. He wanted to go to the library and study for a bit before classes started. Exam week was approaching, and there was a lot to catch up on. The library was located in the oldest part of the school, at the very back of the main building. As he entered, the dim lights cast long shadows across the bookshelves. He made his way to the farthest corner, where it was always the quietest. Taking out his notebook, he started working on a set of math problems. Just a few minutes had passed when something broke his concentration. A faint, almost imperceptible ringing sound. At first, he thought he had imagined it, but then, a few seconds later, the same sound again. A soft, high-pitched bell, almost like it was calling him. He lifted his head and looked around. The library was empty. Even the librarian wasn't there yet. He stood up, trying to follow the sound. The ringing seemed to be coming from the old metal lockers at the very back of the library. Nobody used those lockers anymore. They were old and rusted, tucked away in the corner. Franco hesitated for a moment before stepping closer. His heart began to race. Slowly, he reached out and grabbed the handle of the locker. He took a deep breath and pulled it open. Inside, there was nothing, except for an old dusty notebook wedged between the shelves. Curious, Franco picked it up. The cover was faded, but after brushing off some dust, he noticed a name. Chem, the student who had disappeared 3 years ago. One morning, Shem had come to school as usual. He had never attended class. No one had ever seen him again. The police had searched everywhere, but there was no trace of him. His disappearance remained one of the school's biggest mysteries. Franco flipped open the notebook. At first, it contained normal class notes, but the more he read, the stranger the entries became. Shem had written obsessively about the bell sound. "It's calling me every morning. It wants me to follow it, but I don't know what it wants." As Franco turned the pages, the handwriting became more erratic, more frantic. The last few pages were nearly unreadable, filled with scribbles and frantic scratches. Then he found one clear entry. "If you found this notebook, be careful. It will call you too, but whatever you do, do not open the locker." A chill ran down Franco's spine. His hands were trembling. And then, the bell rang again. But this time it was right behind him. Franco spun around. The locker door, which he had just closed, was now slowly creaking open on its own. His legs felt frozen in place. His heartbeat pounded in his ears. Inside the locker, there was nothing but darkness. It wasn't a normal empty locker. There was no back wall, no shelves, just a deep, endless void. He tried to move, tried to step back, but his body wouldn't obey. His vision blurred and his eyelids grew heavy. The ringing grew louder. Everything went black. That morning, before class started, the librarian entered the library. Everything was silent. Franco's bag and notebooks were still on the table, but he was nowhere to be found. The security cameras were checked. Franco had entered the library, but he was never seen leaving. From that day on, every morning, a faint bell sound echoed through the library, and Franco was never seen again. His name was whispered in hushed conversations, another mystery added to the school's eerie history. Some students claimed they could hear faint footsteps when the library was empty, while others swore they had seen a shadow moving near the lockers. But no one dared to go near them again, because the bell was still ringing, and it was still calling.